think there were a couple of people who were interpreting me as being like kind or something like that, and I'm not really sure what they were getting at there. I don't know what was especially kind about that. And then there were some people interpreting it as unkind. I think there were a couple of people on the thread saying that
On the
it's
thread,
like
and
a
then
on the tattle thread.
oh yeah.
I think there were one or two comments saying like um, I'm basically kind of implying that if you're not a professional therapist or something, you should literally not have these conversations with people. And like it's not like nice to it's not like nice or okay to push someone about their feelings and stuff on a podcast or something
Hmm.
like that. And like clearly Ali has some issues here, and like I don't think it's kind to like talk about this on a podcast and
Hmm.
keep like pushing him on it when it obviously like makes him uncomfortable or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, I thought that was an interesting sort of angle. What's your take on it before I tell you my take?
Hmm.
Before I bring my
I
take
would.
down from the mount?
Hmm. I would agree that it probably wouldn't come under the traditional definitions of kind, and you'd have to justify it as a you have to be cruel to be kind, and I'm for that to be interpreted as kind, it has to be like a I'm kind of doing this for your own good, and I want you to encourage, I want you to face your feelings, and ultimately this is a kindness that I'm offering to you. I think I've had it with a few friends where with most of my friends, they're cool with me pushing them on how they feel about stuff and challenging their feelings to the point where they become uncomfortable. With some, they're not, and I think you and I both
Yeah,
have friends who are in that position. And I think so in that context, if it's the sort of person who's not used to slash and not comfortable with their feelings on some stuff being challenged, they might think that no one should ever challenge people's feelings on anything, unless they're an official therapist and they've been paid to do so.
yeah.
I'm not in that particular viewpoint, but I get that some people are, and that's cool.
Hmm.
What's your take on it?
Yeah, I think people have different thresholds. Like I think I have a good sense for where you stand on this and how okay you would be being like grilled on this. And obviously, like, we record these podcasts beforehand. If we truly get into some weird territory that either of us doesn't want to put on the internet, obviously we wouldn't put it on the internet, right? Like, we've definitely edited things out of the podcast before. Um, yeah, I think people have different thresholds, but in general, I'm starting to notice a bit of like an over pathologizing of things when it comes to the realm of mental health. And look, I'm going to have to caveat this by saying, look, I think mental health is very important. I think, therapists are very useful. I've had a therapist in the past myself. Like, absolutely nothing against that. But I am starting to notice this like slightly dangerous discourse where basically the only way you can solve your problems is by going to a professional. And I think we'd be really missing out if trusted friends cannot, don't feel like they can actually have these conversations with their friends. Like that's really bad. You know, do you know what I mean? I,
Yes,
I think
yes, 100%. I'm on
I,
board.
I I think there is a general bias too far in the direction of like, oh, if you're not a qualified therapist, you shouldn't try and like have these conversations with your friends and stuff. They need to get a therapist. Like, I think having too, you know, going too hard on that side of things is bad and weird. Um, I wish my friends would push me on more things. I get the sense that your friends don't particularly push you on a lot of things. Like they probably all just like take your stoicism bit at face value. Uh, Although actually, like I don't know, like Sheen said she doesn't really buy it. I don't know if she's
Sheen doesn't push me on stuff.
right.
Yeah, yeah. Most
Yeah,
of my friends don't push me on things. It takes a a certain level of being a certain level of callousness almost to be comfortable with pushing someone to the point where they're uncomfortable.
Callousness is the wrong way to put it. Callousness is a very is like
Sure.
a misleading
Right,
way to
but
put
it's a
it.
certain sense of callousness somewhat. But you
You
get what
can't
I'm
just,
getting at, right?
sorry.
But you get what I'm getting at. Like someone like Sheen, who's like very warm, very caring, very empathetic, is not going to be comfortable pushing someone to the point where they become uncomfortable in talking about something, whereas you and I probably would be. And there is a difference there in terms of temperament and in terms of, I think in terms of just being a generally kind person. I don't think it's particularly kind to push someone beyond the point where they're comfortable. You and I still do it anyway with the friends with our friends who we know can quote take it. But if we were kinder and if our operating maxim was more based around kindness, we probably wouldn't do that even with those friends.
I don't know, dude. I think there's like short-term kindness and long-term kindness. I
Okay.
think, yeah, there's like a weird narrative these days where making someone uncomfortable is like the highest cardinal sin, right? And look, in you know probably
Sounds
the vast
accidentally right
majority of
wing.
instances, sorry,
Sounds
accidentally
accidentally
right
right
wing.
wing.
Look, in the vast majority of instances, it is not a good idea to make someone uncomfortable.
Sure.
I think the exceptions are when it's a group, you know, when it is among trusted friends, and I think there is a duty among trusted friends to do that kind of thing, to like to help each other in that way,
Mm,
rather than sort of optimizing for short-term kindness of like, you know, oh, I'm just gonna like always be supportive or like, you know, whatever.
sure. That's fine. I can
Anyway,
I
yeah,
can I can probably get on board with that, but you can see why people would label it as unkind, or at least not as kind as someone who recognizes that, oh, this is making this person uncomfortable. This is a public podcast recording. You know what? Let's take a step back and maybe we can talk about it once in a few days' time. Like that would be another way to approach it. And you and I know that obviously we can cut out whatever the hell we want from these podcast episodes, but people watching it might feel as if this is like, oh, was Ali really okay with doing that? The answer is well, yes, which is why it's on the internet. But you,
yeah.
you
Look, I
someone wouldn't put those different points together and have all the context and then describe this as being kind.
yeah, but the point I wanted to make was this sort of strange bias towards like only if you are a professional therapist should you
Oh
be
yeah,
having these
I think that's
conversations
weird and
with
stupid.
people.
Obviously.
Yeah, yeah, that was the main thing I wanted to kind
Oh,
of
great. Yeah,
draw attention to there.
broadly agreed on that front. It's weird and stupid, uh, with all the caveats that you mentioned earlier.